What would you do if a 400-pound lion suddenly attacked you and is hell-bent on killing you? Well, this family of 3 had similar encounter and experience in the safari reserve. Stick with me to the end as we go on this ride together. Now the movie begins with a group of poachers who were known for hunting down animals. After they came across some group of lions, they opened fire on them and killed the majority of the pride. As they proceeded to leave, one of the poachers heard some rustling sound in the bush. Suspecting that it could be an animal, he then went in search of the creature. As he was searching for the animal, a huge lion suddenly jumped towards him and then devoured him instantly. The movie then switches to a widowed man named Dr. Nate. He takes his 2 daughters, Nora and Mare, for a vacation to a reserve in South Africa known as Mopani. As they got there, the girls complains that the weather is too hot while they await their father's friend known as Martin. Martin is a biologist and also the manager of the reserve. When Martin arrived, Nate introduced him to his daughters, who were now all grown-ups compared to the last time Martin last saw them. He helps them pack their bag as they proceeded to leave for his house. It is then revealed that Martin, who is an enforcer for the reserve, had introduced Nate to his wife. Martin then showed the girls their mum's village as they drove past. When they got to Martin's house, he tells them that there wasn't any cell phone networks in the area, but they shouldn't worry because they won't miss their phones as there are a lot of things to see at the reserve. They came across their mum's old pictures. Mare then picked interest in the pictures because she was also into film photography. Later that night, while they were having dinner, Mare accuses her dad for not showing interest in her photography and also for being distant and not checking in on their mum when she was sick. This resulted in a little argument between the two. Later on, while Martin and Nate were having some beer, Nate pours out his guilt to Martin, saying he should have been there for his wife when she had terminal cancer. Now he has lost control of his daughters. Martin tries to calm him down, saying it wasn't his fault. He assures him that this trip would help him reconnect with his daughters. The next day, Martin then decides to tour the family on the private section of the reserve. He shows them around as Mare photographed the wildlife. He took them to one of the reserve local lions' pride, where he met up with Bonji. Martin introduces Nate and his daughters to Bonji, saying he tracks down the movement of the pride through the reserve. Martin then explains to them that the female lion are in charge of hunting, while the male lion would protect the pride and his territory from other lions. Bonji then teaches Mare how to assemble his tranq rifle used for taking down wild animals just in case of a critical situation. While Martin goes over to meet the lions, it is revealed that he had raised them since they were little. He plays with them and then soon noticed that one of them is injured. Martin then realized that it was the poachers, who are also known as illegal hunters. As they were about leaving, Martin tells them that he needed to stop at a local village to find out what actually happened to the wounded lion. When they got to the village, Martin discovers that everywhere was quiet and no one was around. Nate tells Martin that they should go back as it wasn't a good sign, but Martin soon discovers that almost all the villagers were dead. They were attacked in a gruesome manner that suggests that a lion is responsible. Martin then tells Nate to get back to the girls as hyenas might be around and whatever killed those villagers is still out there, meaning they weren't safe. Nate was about to leave, but he couldn't find Nora as she had wandered off. They finally found her where she stood scared because she found out about the dead bodies. Martin and the family then quickly heads out of the village. As they are driving, they come across one of the villagers who is badly injured. Martin and Nate then stepped out of the vehicle to help him, but when Martin heard a rustling noise in the nearby bush, he decided to go after the lion with his rifle, while Nate is tasked on treating the injured man, but unfortunately the man passed out. Meanwhile, a brave Martin who goes in search of the lion gets attacked. Hearing the noise Martin made, Nate then decides to go check up on his friend, but he is ambushed by the lion. Nate was lucky enough to get into his car, but the angry lion kept on attacking their vehicle, which resulted to Nate getting an injury. Mare manages to drive the car away from the lion as she crashes into a nearby tree, which brought the car to a stop. Nate tries to assure the girls that everything is alright and they don't have to worry because someone would surely find them. But Mare knew that it wasn't possible because this part of the reserve is closed to the public, which means nobody would come across them. Just as they were discussing, Martin radios Nate. He tells Nate that the lion attacked him out of nowhere. His leg is torn up and he is losing a lot of blood. Nate tries to come over to help him, but Martin tells him that it wasn't a good idea. Nate then gives Martin some instructions on how to stop the bleeding. They communicated through the radio. He tells Martin that he is going to use the tranq rifle to hit the lion so they could buy some couple of hours. He climbs onto the roof of the car to see if he could see either the lion or Martin. Just as he was peeking through the tranq rifle, Mare goes out of the car to look for Martin, saying he needed help badly. As Nate was yelling at her to get back inside the vehicle, the lion appeared. He attacks Nate just as he was about to shoot. Nate quickly takes cover under the vehicle. The lion kept on attacking him violently. Nora, who was screaming at the top of her voice, then tells her dad that the rifle was on the other side, and he should try to reach for it. As Nate was about going for the weapon, the lion attacked again. This time it almost got Nate, but Nora used a tranquilizer dart to stab the lion, which made the lion to retreat. Meanwhile, Mare rescued Martin, as she brings him back to the vehicle. Nate then helped to treat Martin's wound which he sustained from the deadly lion. Just as Nate was treating Martin, the lion appeared again, but this time he didn't attack them because of the tranquilizer. Nate and the rest then discovers that the tranquilizer was wearing out and they only have hours to leave the place and escape from the lion. Later that night, Nate promises his daughters that someone would come find them and he would make sure that they are safe. Mare, who didn't believe in her dad because he promised the same thing about their mom before she died, then started an argument which made Nora sad. In an emotional moment, Nate reconciled with his daughters, saying he cared for their mom, but things didn't just work out. Later on, a recovering Martin then wakes up. He asks about the lion. Nate tells him he hasn't seen the lion since dark and it might have probably given up. Martin then tells Nate that he has never seen a lion gone rogue this way before. He continues by saying the lion had gone rogue because of the poachers who killed and attacked its pride. Now the lions are trying to fight back. Soon after, when they had all woken up from sleep, the poachers arrive. They spoke to Nate, saying they were looking for the lion that escaped during their hunt. Nate then begs the poachers for a ride to transport him, Martin and his daughters. He promised to give them $5,000 if they can help transport his family. Initially, they agreed, but when they recognized Martin as an anti-poacher, they refused to help. As tension rises, they tried to kidnap Nora, but the lion appears and then attacks the poachers, killing majority of them. Nate then decides to take the poachers' truck so they would get away from the area, but he couldn't find the keys. Without any knowledge of hot wiring a car, Nate then proceeds to go look for the driver. He promised his girls that he would be back in 10 minutes and they shouldn't worry much about him. He goes inside the forest to look for the driver, but instead he sees the lion. Nate takes cover in a tree to avoid getting seen by the deadly lion. As he was hiding from the lion, his daughters radios him through the walkie-talkie. In an attempt to stop the noise coming from the walkie-talkie, he throws it away. The lion, who had killed all the poachers, then noticed the sound coming from the talkie. He goes over to it as he roars. The girl then suspects that their dad might be in danger, so they honk their abandoned car repeatedly to know if he would respond. But instead the lion goes over to meet them. He attacks them. As he attempted to kill them, Martin tells the girl to get away from the car and hide in the poacher's car while he holds off the lion. During the struggle, the car falls into a ravine. The lion then recovered. He prepared to eat Martin. But Martin sacrificed his life by setting up a fire from the car's gasoline leak, which burned him and the lion. Nate, noticing the fire, then runs to the girls. They tell him that Martin had died with the fire. A devastated Nate then goes over to check on his daughter Mare, who sustained a deep injury to the side of her stomach. He then takes the poacher's truck as he flees with Mare and Nora. The next morning, while they were still trying to figure out a way to leave the reserve, they decided to stop at an old abandoned school, because Mare's injury was getting worse. Nate parks the truck as he carries Mare and Nora to the school. He treats Mare's wound and then proceeded to go look for water. Just as he left, the lion appeared again. The girls, who were afraid, then goes in hiding as they screamed for help. Nate, who heard the distress cry, then quickly returns back to the girls. He uses a rifle to scare the lion off, knowing fully well that the lion was still out there and it wasn't going to stop till it killed them. Nate then locks his daughters in a room. He tells them that he needed to lure the lion away and then promised to return back after he had subdued the lion. Nate lures the angry lion to the local pride, the pride which Martin had raised. In a hot battle, the lion severely injured Nate, almost killing him, but Nate was saved when the local lions intervened and attacked the angry lion to protect their territory. Bonji then arrives at the scene. He saves Nate as he falls unconscious. In the next scene, Nate, who had miraculously survived the lion gruesome attack, then reunited with his daughters. Bonji had rescued them also after he found them in the room. After Nate had fully recovered, the family took another vacation to the reserve as they took photographs in their mother's favorite spot. The end. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more contents like this.